We have to keep together and fight. We don't need politicians, we need a people's movement to dictate to politicians. We should be dictating to them, not them dictating to us. And you need to go back to your communities and bring people out, because we're going to start national rallies again soon. We're going to start them up, and we need to get people out on the streets to tell them what we want. And we need to demand. I'm not going to ask a politician for anything, I'm going to demand what we want. And the demand today is, we want housing on Redfern. We want housing, we want people to live, we have the right to live. And it was we all saw the Adam Goods saga recently. Everybody jumped up and clapped and applauded, and they all got on side. Even the politicians made statements about Adam Goods. That is fantastic, I'm glad. It highlighted the underbelly of racism that exists in this country, where one man can make a cultural statement and tens and hundreds of thousands of people around the country boo him and harass him on a daily basis when he goes to work. If anybody went to work like that, then the rest would be fired for harassment. We had politicians, every man and his dog, even Tony Abbott got into it. Why not find the same passion for housing for Aboriginal people? Why not get down to the block and talk to Jenny Munro about housing for Aboriginal people? Instead of wasting your breath on one sportsman, which I really think was okay, but seriously, there's more issues than Adam Goods playing football. The issues are, we should be housed. The issues are, we have the highest imprisonment rate in the bloody world. We have the highest deaths in custody rate in the world. Why don't you politicians who can make your nice statements about the underbelly of racism start talking about the real racism? The real racism is not deaths in custody, not about housing, it's about throwing people out of housings to die on the streets, and it's about murder in custody. Yes! So come on, don't have two standards. Don't applaud Adam and leave the rest of us to die in the streets. I want to introduce you to a researcher from Jumbunna Indigenous House of Learning, a great friend of the 10 embassies, and I'll tell you something funny. Him and his wife have got two beautiful children now. They met over pepper spray outside of Julie Bishop's office in Perth, protesting. I think that's a lovely thing, huh? What a way to start a marriage. I just hope when the pepper spray cleared they didn't go, oh, what? Paddy Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Ken. Too kind. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky for Julie Bishop and that day when the police were pepper spraying us. But yeah, no, I would just like to start by acknowledging the amazing fight that has come from the Redfern Aboriginal 10 Embassy. Absolutely amazing fight, Jenny Munro. Jenny Munro has put up, and other people here today, both black and white, you know, and you know, all people from all walks of life that have been down there doing the hard slog, camping out in the rain, in the storms, holding their ground at the Redfern Aboriginal 10 Embassy to demand what should have been given a long time ago, and that is housing on the block on Aboriginal land. What a disgraceful situation. What a disgraceful situation we have when 1/3 of the homeless people here in Sydney, 1/3 of the homeless people on the streets of Sydney are black, when you've got an absolute crisis as a result of homelessness, when kids are being removed from Aboriginal families, literally, and I'm helping these families day in, day out, kids are being removed from Aboriginal families and put into white foster families because they're homeless. Because they're homeless, that's why those kids are being taken. You know, and yet they got money to fly Bronwyn Bishop wherever she wants to bloody fly. You know, they got money. They've just announced tens of billions of dollars to build submarines to kill people, and they can't build housing on Aboriginal land in the block. Not good enough, and we're going to fight, and we're going to stand up and fight. And I would also just like to acknowledge the unions that are here today. I'm a member of the National Tertiary Education Union. My union took a motion to Unions New South Wales, and we got a motion through Unions New South Wales condemning the state government, demanding the state government fund housing on the block now. So I'm proud of my union. And the mighty Maritime Union of Australia are here today, and have been supporting this struggle. And the thread that links the Hutchinson workers that are on the picket line down at Port Botany today. They have got, you know, the same disregard and disrespect shown to those workers who've been sacked and are out there today. They are in defiance of the law today. Who tried to tell them, the courts tried to tell them, get back to work. They're refusing the court order and they're standing on that picket line. And if they can have some of the spirit, some of the fire, some of the dedication that we've seen from the Redfern Aboriginal 10 Embassy, defying order after order to get off the land there at the block, then they're going to win that dispute, and it's going to be there. And the Maritime Union have rallied consistently for the 10 Embassy. We can build that solidarity, and some of us from here, Uncle Ken and others, are going to be going down the picket line to show that support, because that defiance is needed. All of us need to be defying these government, getting out and fighting back, otherwise the attacks are just going to continue to come thick and fast. Because I'll just finish on this, the housing issue is being used mercilessly by the government at the federal level and the state level to try and break up Aboriginal communities and force assimilation of Aboriginal communities. There is not a single dollar that is being provided to any Aboriginal controlled community housing organisation anywhere in the country today to build any new housing. Not a single dollar. Not a single dollar, unless some of the big bush communities that are trying to herd people in from the homelands, they can have some housing if they sign their land over to the government. That's the only way they can get any money for housing out in the bush, is if they sign their housing over to the government. That's happening across all the old missions and reserves here in New South Wales. It's happening to all the communities right across. It's one of the #1 weapons that they have got to try and break people up, break up the culture, break up the communities, enforce the assimilation and take control of the land, is by using that housing funding as a weapon. And we've seen that here in Redfern. And if we can win this in Redfern, and we can see some cracks, and fire up, Jenny.
Stop the intervention! Funding is contingent on whether they support the recognised campaign.
Oh, and that's exactly right as well. Jenny's making another good point that they've said in these latest round of Indigenous Advancement Service funding, you can't get any funding if you're running cultural programs unless you sign up to support their bullshit recognised campaign. You actually got to sign on the dotted line. And what will we be recognising? What will we be recognising? If it goes in the Constitution, some gammon thing in the preamble, Aboriginal people were here, thanks very much, they want to put in the preamble. What will we be recognising? Apartheid in the Northern Territory that they have on the books with the intervention? Genocide across the country as they're breaking up the communities? No deal. Give back the land. Recognise the people by giving them back the land. Give them self-determination. Give them power. No token rubbish. But if we can win this, in Redfern and the cracks starting to appear, everyone please support this campaign.
We end up getting funding cuts, and legal aid hasn't got any funding cuts. As soon as that have got it, it cut $14 million from Aboriginal Legal Service. So why don't people get out and fight? Because the more we gain, the more you bloody gain. And yet it's all sit back and leave us fight our way, except for you people to come here. Go home and tell your friends to get up their asses and come and support us. Because our benefits are your benefits. If we beat the government, we beat them on everybody's behalf, not just us. And if we're going to live in this country, you cannot live in this country and call yourself a citizen of Australia if you're allowing what is happening to the First Nations people to happen. You cannot walk proud in this country until all the injustices are rectified and stopped.